Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Charmed. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the whole situation with Macy and Jimmy, because it turns out, in fact, okay, so he no longer has his memories as a white lighter. He remembers everything from being James, aka Jimmy. And obviously showing you kind of like, because the Charmers have never met Jimmy. They've only heard about him vicariously. Obviously, the only person who kind of got to know him was Abigail through like Harry's memories and stuff like that. But they kind of meet him, and he's just kind of like, I'm not going to be held here by three girls. Showing that Jimmy, well, to be fair, Jimmy was from a different time, but still doesn't justify him being a little bit of a douche. But the fact of the matter is, because he doesn't remember any of the magical world and stuff like that, so Macy's trying to concoct a spell to make it so that he remembers. And so she, and obviously he's like reluctant at first, and he's just like, fine, like, and she uses it on him but gets blasted back. And immediately my brain was like, oh, could this be like some kind of like white light or safeguard or something like that? That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, it just happens to flash back at her, and now she gets it on her head, so now she's the one kind of having reliving, some buried memories and stuff like that. And it was interesting because we saw Macy partying it up. I was like, wait, what? That's why I was confused at first. I was like, what's this? Is this supposed to be like an alternate life or something? It's like, what? And then it's like, wait, this is her in the past. I was like, wait, what? That's Macy in the past? It's like the Macy we've come to know. That's not. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And at one point she used her demon powers. I'm like, wait, what? I was confused. I was like, what's going on here? And then it's like, okay, so side note, it's her dad is played by Leonard Roberts. Well, it might be Leonard Roberts. The fact is, isn't like, that's not the same actor who played her dad in season 1, I don't think. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's not the same actor. Because he's been in Heroes, and I think the most recent thing I saw him was in The Magicians, because he played like the King of Loria, I think he was in season 3. I know he was definitely in season 2, but I want to say he might have popped up in season 3 as well. I just don't remember. Regardless, the moment he heard about like her showcasing, like it's like fire came out of my hand. He calls up Marisol because it's like, okay, we got to handle this situation. So it's like, wait, you've met your mom and everything? I was like, okay, they obviously must have wiped your memories, but this is wild. Like, holy crap! And the fact is, it's like obviously they can't lay eyes on each other, because if Marisol lays eyes upon Macy, she'll die, which I completely forgot about that stipulation until they brought it up at the beginning. I was like, oh, right. Because I was wondering, I was like, I couldn't remember the full scope of why she wasn't in Macy's life, other than like other reasons. But I was like, right, that stipulation, right? Okay. So, nevertheless, so she's making sure that Macy doesn't see her, and the fact is, it's kind of like, and the moment she started talking to Macy about like, oh, you basically gotta like, kind of almost like control your emotions, stuff like that. I was like, that's why Macy's the way she is. I was thinking like maybe when her mind got wiped, like when her memories got wiped, that existed on some small level. So basically that became the foundation of who she is and why she is the way she is, where she tries not to like kind of almost restrains her emotions, which obviously at the time it was meant to keep her demon side in check. It helps with her like, I'm sure it affected like her witch powers as well, but more so than any. Well, because at that time their witch powers were sealed away. So for her, the only thing she had access to, because I know like her emotions, because obviously affect her witch abilities too. But it's like it's because of like at that time their powers were still sealed, so only powers that were available to her at the time were her demon powers. So, but it was interesting to know like, wow, so that was kind of like the foundation, and like her mom kind of instilled that in her. But then it's like, oh, we find out Harry kind of pops up, and it's like, wait, so she's actually met Harry before too. This is wild. And the fact is, he wiped her memory, and I guess like he wiped enough of her memory, like the trauma of it all, to kind of force her to become the person she was, because she was kind of a party animal, because she wasn't like, whereas Macy now is very steadfast in like, oh, I'm pointing in one direction, like she kind of knows what she wants from her life. Like Macy was, obviously she was younger then, she was kind of all over the place and a bit of a party animal. Once again, you would have never thought that was Macy, so I thought that was kind of interesting how that was handled. And it's interesting that even though Macy was kind of going on, it was meant to be, Harry's journey to unlock his memories, ended up being Macy's. I think it's interesting that Jimmy went on his own journey as well, because at first he's like, it's interesting because like, even though he doesn't seem like he cares, he actually does, because he's like, holy crap, he's there like, wiping off her forehead, even like when her nose starts bleeding, like he's there to kind of like stop the nosebleed, but then he's kind of like, okay, I don't want to be here. I don't want to get blamed for everything that happened to you. So he's about to leave, and then I was like, he stops and I'm like, oh, is your conscience kicking in? Are you going to take care of Missy? And he immediately steals her purse. I was like, that's fucked up. I was like, oh, never mind. I was like, oh, come on, Harry. And then he's running, but then like he looks around and he sees, like, he pulls out a picture from her wallet. It's of him and Macy, and he looks and sees a picture of him, Macy, Maggie, and Mel, and it kind of clicks like, wait, these are people that are important to me. So he just like, and it's like Macy said, there is a good guy there because they've met that good side of Harry, so they know that he's a good guy deep down. And so he's there trying to help like figure something out, and Jordan calls, and like Macy's having like she's seizing, and he's trying to look after her, and like the way he's like caressing her and stuff, it's like, oh, and but sadly she stopped breathing, and it's like, it turns out the reason why Harry wasn't affected by the spell is because they put a magic blocker, and I guess that was their way to kind of make it so that he doesn't just kind of escape, I guess. But I guess they knocked him out and then injected that just in case if he woke up he wouldn't be able to kind of leave. I thought that was kind of interesting. But it also showcases, I guess, when Harry's powers I guess they pulled enough of his powers out, so it's not like all his powers are gone. It is a thing of like only probably like a fraction of them got stolen, and I'm curious what that will, how that will affect him in the long run. But little Jordan be like, we're gonna have to cut you open, and pull that out your brain. He's like, you gonna have to what? He's like, no, and he's like, come on, this is about saving her life, and he's looking down at Macy. He's like, all right, go ahead and do it before I change my mind. And the moment Jordan pulls it out, it all comes flooding back, and luckily, Harry was able to save Macy. So while that's going down, we've got the whole situation with Maggie and Mel. They're in talk with Ray, which I gotta talk about it. It's weird seeing the actor who plays their dad, Ray, because I talked about this during Ozark. If you're unaware, I won't spoil it if you haven't caught it with Ozark, but or haven't watched Ozark, you need to watch Ozark. I'm pushing that show every chance I get. The fact of the matter is, he's in season 3 of Ozark. He plays a really, really bad dude. So it's weird because I saw him as Ray first, obviously, and then I saw season 3 of Ozark. I was like, isn't that Ray from Charmed? And now I'm seeing him as Ray again, and it's weird. I love it's just a weird juxtaposition, but nevertheless, I love the whole situation of like, it's like, okay, we find out that Mel and Ray have been actually having some bonding time, obviously looking into this whole like faction thing, and Maggie's like, wait, what? You've been in contact? It's like, yeah, and it's been kept top secret and stuff like that. I was like, interesting. Mel's like, you were suggesting that me and Dad kind of build a better relationship, and we did. We were trying to. Because out of anyone, Mel had the biggest issues with her dad. So, I mean, obviously Maggie has her issues too, but she's like, no, it's okay, it's okay. But then she starts like get dizzy and stuff. She's like, I feel like I'm dying. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And at first it's like, is she poisoned or something? And then Jordan's there to help her at one point. He's like, you're having a panic attack. And she's like, no, I appreciate your medical expertise, but obviously this is something magical. Like, I think it's just because you're so used to such magical stuff happening, like something as simple as a panic attack doesn't seem possible. And even Jordan being like, he's met plenty of people who are strong like Maggie who've had panic attacks, that it isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you're human. Like, that, things affect you essentially. And obviously you see it more and more, like, because like the fact is, like, you can tell Maggie's a little resentful because like the moment Ray pops up and he's like, oh, little bug and everything, she's like, like, yeah, like, because at first she's like, yeah, I've had my issues with my dad, but this has nothing to do with any of that. And it turns out it has everything to do with that, because she gets a little snippy because it's like, oh, my little bug, it's like, I'm not your little anything anymore. And it was like, oh, I was like, oh. Because at first, it's like, they're kind of going... For one, you can tell she's also a little resentful because it's like they're both going off on adventures together and stuff like that. Once again, she's kind of getting left behind. But they find out, like, Maggie's the one that figured out that Harry's message wasn't what they thought it was, because they thought it was kind of like this version of Stonehenge made of like 40 pillars, like in Brazil or something like that, that it like apparently had like supernatural stuff. I do like that the fact is we never got the insight of what Ray and Mel went up to. It's like, oh, how was your trip together? It's like, I'd rather not talk about it. I was like, I'm wondering what the hell went down. But nevertheless, when they get there, she starts having like, panic attacks again, because now she finds out like Mel and Ray have been playing video games together. She's like, what are you, a gamer now? It's like, no, it's just something me and Ray, it's like, and it's affecting her. And in that moment, like, Maggie ended up finding out that, like, her dad is like, oh, you've been having a panic attack. And she's like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, basically you had him as a little. This ain't something new. Like she's had him in the past. It's just that when she was younger, like it was around the time Marisol and him were getting divorced, and it's like you were kind of hyperventilating a lot because it was hard for you. You weren't even going to school and stuff like that. So it's like they secretly took her to therapy without telling her it was therapy for her panic attack. So it's been an underlying issue. It's just resurfaced now because of all this stuff. Because for her, it's just, and obviously Maggie gets pissed, which she has a right to, because it's like, you're keeping secrets from me. It's bad enough. It's like, the fact is that you didn't tell me, Dad, that you're not my real dad, that I actually have some other dad. It's bad enough that now I find out that you and Mel have been having these secret like get-togethers. It's like so many people kept stuff from her, and it makes her feel like you always treat me like I'm the little kid that doesn't have the right to know what's really going on. And because especially what pisses Maggie off is because like she has no opportunity to get the truth. Her mom's gone. There's no getting truth from that. Dexter's going. So it's like there's no getting the truth from him either. So all she has is her dad. So for her, that's where like all this underlying resentment, because she's like, I'm tired of pretending like all these lies and everything are okay. And then like she like charges up and like sends out a surge. I'm like, what the hell was that? And then these guards start beating the crap out of each other behind each other. I was like, wait, did you just impose your will on them with your emotions? I was like, holy crap. I was like, so this is like, I guess almost like an inverse of her empath ability. I mean, it's like an advancement of her empath ability. So that's what I'm like, okay, so we've seen with Macy, like the whole thing about like how she can use her telekinesis to now like paralyze people. Now we're seeing that Maggie kind of lost her empath abilities and instead got premonitions, which I guess is still on the lane of her empath abilities, but now we see there's a different version of it. So it's like, okay, so does that mean Mel's going to develop a different ability too? Because now, like everyone else is kind of doubling up a little bit, which is what I was aiming for from the beginning. Like back in season 1, I was like, are they going to get double abilities like the original Charm ones are? And it seems like we're kind of getting down that lane potentially. But that's really interesting that that's what her power kind of developed as. It's actually pretty dope. To be able to kind of like, impose your emotions on other people. So I thought that's such a fast, and I'm curious to see the full applications of that potentially going forward, so, but they go inside, they're able to sneak inside, and I love them. The guy's like, how did you get in here? They're like, they're the main front. It's like, oh, you must be one of the like spectators and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, we came to see, the dam about this dam, and it's just like them kind of playing the role of sneaking in and making it seem like, oh, we belong here. And it turns out the dam, or at least what the fraction of what we saw, like obviously all the power they're generating is being used on all the supernatural creatures they captured, and they've captured a crap ton. Not unless that was just the people, because I mean that might not have just been like the supernatural creatures there. That might just be the bodies they plan on resurrecting. It must be the bodies that they plan on resurrecting, like using as kind of I was about to say not Faraday cage. It's not like using the water and all that. I guess it's an amplifier to like surge all the power through whatever the case may be. So it could be either the magical creatures they capture, but I'm thinking maybe it probably is the like dead bodies of all the people that are resurrected. But it's like, would you have access to that many damn dead bodies? So I would assume it'd have to be your supernatural army essentially. But then, like, the moment we see those boots touch the ground when, like, a vehicle show up, I'm like, that's Julian. And it gets revealed, it's totally Julian. So it confirms he is neck deep in this. Because that was a big question before. Like, okay, we know he knows about the magical world because he saw what he believed to be a white lighter. As someone suggested last episode, maybe a dark light. So we knew that he was obviously, knew about the magical world and everything. But now the question was like, how involved with this? Because we know his aunt was like the most involved in it. So it's like, okay, so without a doubt, Julian is neck deep in all of this. Once again, this actually might be more his project than it is his aunt's, So maybe it's a combination of two, whatever the case may be. So now it's like, and I even love, because like he sees Maggie, he's like, Maggie? And she's like, Julian. And he's like, what are you doing here? She's like, I can ask you the same question, but I guess we both kind of already know the answer to it. And she was like, it's always the rich billionaire that's the bad guy, and they portal out of there. But now it's like, what do we do now? Because safe space isn't safe anymore now because of all of this. Julian knows where we are. He knows what we are. So it's like, they kind of going forward, they have to be more on the offensive now. So, and at the same time, like there's a lot of like clarity on a lot of stuff, at least, in Macy's case, where it's like now she realizes like the entire life, her whole thing of restraint isn't necessarily on her. It's what her dad and mom kind of imposed on her because they thought that was what was necessary to keep her safe. But now I think and that once again it kind of has its downsides because of that. She kind of put up walls, and now those walls are kind of torn down, and now because she has clarity, she's a little more. I think it's going to be interesting to see now that she's kind of a little less restrained, like what that looks like on Macy. We see it a little bit at the end. When she's kind of like dancing a little bit, and Harry's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, and she's like, "I just got more clarity on what I want." He's like, "What do you want?" She's like, "I want you to get your ass over here and dance with me." I'm like, "Oh!" And then they're dancing and stuff. I'm like, "Dude!" And they kiss. I'm like, "Yes!" I was like, "Finally!" Once again, I bring this up all the time. I'm a sucker for a good love story, romance, and all that. I'm a sucker for it. So I was like, finally. It's like, okay, good. Julian's a bad guy, so we don't have to worry about muddying up that water. It's just like, boom, you and Abigail are done. Good. It's you and I don't know why I did that. Regardless, it's like Harry and Macy. Finally, yes. So that's awesome. So I thought that was pretty dope. And at the same time, there's a situation with Maggie talking to Ray, because he wanted to talk about everything because he's like, I get it. You 100% have the right to be mad about this whole situation. But like for him, it's like the reason I tell you the truth about your, family situation is because you're my baby girl, essentially. You are my daughter through and through. And I love you, and the fact is, telling the truth would have hurt too much, more so for him because it's like, because it would have been acknowledging that I'm not your dad when in actuality I am, And so for him, it's like, at the end of the day, his problem was like, he loved her too damn much. And I was like, I thought that was kind of sweet. Him even being like, oh, if you need me to, I can, I have some connections so I can make it so that I can make some calls in to get you into a certain college and stuff like that. She's like, aren't you dead? He's like, yeah, but I can rise from the dead, just for you, Even bringing up the fact is that her mom was in a psych major, which is interesting because we haven't circled back to that with Maggie. Which, when you think about it, I don't know if I brought that up in season 1. That's very befitting, like her being an empath and everything, and the whole like psychology major and stuff like that. It actually fits very perfectly. Just her powers and everything aligning like that. But which is also interesting too, because apparently she's following her mom's path. Her mom had the premonition ability before her, so it's interesting how that does, like the lanes of just like how all that kind of connects like that. I thought was actually pretty dope. But nevertheless, them kind of making up at the end like that was actually pretty good, and you see Mel kind of watching, so it's nice to see all of that. So the big question going forward is like, okay, so what do we do going forward? Like, what's their next plan of attack? And now, especially because, seeing that Julian has this army ready, how do they plan on, what's their, next plan of action with all of this? There isn't going to be an episode of Charmed next week. However, there will be one the week after next, and it appears it's going to be the season finale, which that came up pretty quickly. I wonder, was that just naturally how things were going to flow, or is that just because of the whole everything production wise? It might have just be like, because it just might just end up being a shorter season, because this is only episode 19. Season 1 was like 22, I believe, if I remember correctly. But regardless, either way, I'm very, very interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the season finale. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.